Hey, Britt here, and I am really excited to be bringing you the first video in my 13 Cards of Halloween card series. Today I'm going to be using a bunch of really fun DCWV product, including the 6x6 Eek-a-Boo stack, the Fall and Halloween matte stack and card stack matte stack, and a bunch of embellishments, including some frames and some sequin packs, and I've also added in some glitter glue and stickles, and I am using May Art's ribbon and some of their twine, and I am also going to be using my favorite at the moment, black ink, the Heidi Swap black ink and Stays On. And then some of these things are going to come up in other videos because I did all of the filming in one day. But today I'm going to be making a card using one of the pages from the Eek-a-Boo matte stack and this frame from Radiant Rectangles by Spellbinders. So these matte stack pages, there are a couple of them from the Eek-a-Boo matte stack that are more kind of like a subway art than really a matte for a photo, and they're pretty much made to put on to a focal of a page or a card, but they are the size of a matte stack, which is just a little larger than 4x6. So first I'm going to show you how to make a 5x7 card out of one single sheet of 12x12 cardstock. The first thing you do is you cut 2 strips of 5x12 cardstock from your larger sheet, and then you take one of the strips and you cut it at 7 inches. That's the first side of the card. Then you take the other long strip that's 5x12 and you go ahead and score it at 7 inches. When you fold it over, one side will be 5 inches long and one side will be 7 inches long. Then you just take the first mat that you cut and you attach it to the short side of the card, and you have a pretty much a seamless portrait style 5x7 card out of one piece of 12x12 cardstock. All you have to do is line it right up and get it stuck down together, and there you have your card base in the portrait style, which is sometimes hard to come by in a 5x7. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this frame from Radiant Rectangles by Spellbinders, and I'm going to line the very top up with that little bat at the top of the subway art card. Just use a little bit of washi tape to make sure that the frame stays lined up and doesn't move when I send it through the die cutting machine. And then I'm just going to take this and run it really quickly through my Spellbinders Grand Caliber and cut out my frame. Now, I didn't make you sit through all of the shaking of me using my die cutting machine, but when it gets cut out, it has the outside frame, which this die has a little bit of a design that gets put on the outside part of the frame, and then it has this really nice sort of pseudo top note shape that ends up coming out. First, before we put that onto our 5x7 card, though, we're going to take one of our stamps from Hampton Art. This is one of the dollar stamps from Michaels, and it is basically just a really cute little sort of medium-sized spider web. And then originally I was planning on using that second stamp set as well, but we'll get to the reason why I didn't end up using it in just a second. Now, some of these matte stack pages have a little bit of a shiny paper that they're printed on, and so I went ahead and used Stays On to stamp my stamps. And that's because sometimes those shiny papers or the creamy kind of cardstock, it can take a little longer for things to dry on the top of that because they really aren't porous. So it's good to use Stays On or some other kind of ink that's very quick drying and can be used on non-porous surfaces. Here we go, and here's the first mistake that I made. I looked at the image as it was going to be stamped instead of how it was going to be once I took it out of the packaging. And so I ended up having the orientation of all my other stamping be the opposite of what I needed it to be. So I went ahead and I got out a couple of these Martha Stewart stamps that had some spider webs, and there's this long hanging spider on a string on the side of this invitation stamp. Now the rubber stamps didn't take the stays on as well as the clear stamps did, but actually once you see the picture of the finished card at the end, you'll see that basically just the darker black and kind of the shadowy effect that I got with the rubber stamps just makes the whole card have a little more depth. So it was a happy accident, but it was an accident. Next, I am going to prepare my panel to be put on the card, and the final step for that is that I'm gonna ink all the way around it with some black ink to make it stand out once I put it on that busy card base. And then I'm going to take my fall and Halloween themed sequenced embellishment pack from DCWV, and they're little black paper spiders as part of this pack, and they're just made of black cardstock, but they're exactly the right size for the spider webs that I put on the card, and I am really excited to show you what I did next. I took some black embossing powder and some Versamark ink, and I'm just going to coat the front of each of the little spiders with some Versamark ink. Now what I should have done is I should have just taken them, as you're seeing me do now, directly to the pad and not press down on the front of that piece of paper, but like the other mistake I made, live and learn. So I take my Martha Stewart embossing powder, which is very, very, very good quality, and I coat the entire front of all three of my little spider embellishments. And then I'm just going to move them off of there temporarily so that I can put some of my embossing powder back in the bottle. The problem is that I put some Versamark on that paper, and so not all of that embossing powder went back in the bottle, but it's alright. So I'm just going to heat set these little spiders, and it was really amazing as I was doing it how just shiny and textural it made them. So don't forget to use your mixed media tools and mixed media supplies to add some special touches to your pre-made embellishments, because I really think it made a lot of difference. As you can see here, I'm kind of trying to give you an idea of how shiny they are. There you go. So I'm done embossing the little spiders, and the next step is to really start and assemble my card. So I'm going to pop up the largest part of it with my large, thick pop dots that I got from Oriental Trading Company. You get like thousands of them in one order, and they're very, very cheap, but they're really good quality. So I'm just going to pop that up on the front of my card, and then I'm going to put a little pop dot on each one of these little spider embellishments, and I'm going to start to place those down. While we're watching this part, I just want to invite you back. Every day except for Sundays, I'm going to see if I can make 13 days of cards, and we have just about 14 or 15 days left until the Halloween day is upon us, and so I'm going to try to get them in just as we're at the eve of Halloween. So my next step is to use some more pop dots, and I cut these little apothecary jars out of the larger version of the Eek-a-Boo stack, and I just thought they made really, really awesome, cute little embellishments on their own. There's 2 of these pages, and I think there's either 6 or 7 across the bottom of both of them. So if you cut them all out, that's like 14 or 15 of these apothecary embellishments that you get in the stack. I just used some little pop dots and put them to the side, more of the empty side of the card, to add a little more dimension, and they're kind of shiny and sparkly too. Lastly, I'm going to make a bow out of this May Arts ribbon, and I like to use my fingers, especially if I'm trying to make a bow with multiple loops on it, and I just kind of put the little ends of the ribbon through my fingers, and I have gotten really good at just tying that off with my opposite hand. It does become problematic if you can't get it off your fingers, like it was a little bit there, but it does make a really even bow, and it's pretty small and size, pretty perfect size actually for cards and a small thing on a scrapbooking page. Like I said, I cut off a little of the design at the bottom, but as you can see there, I decided that that's where I wanted to put my bow. So I took some pictures so you could see what the finished card looked like, and I'm so excited for you to see the rest of the days, and thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.